A very good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. Today is the 29th of April 2024. For the Newsfirst team, I am Jayama Ratnayaka.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekar, and here are your headlines for tonight.
BASL demands Public Security Minister's ouster over controversial remarks. Muruthettuwe Anandathero claims that lawyers cannot influence the duties of police officers. Vijay Dasa goes to the appeal court to assert his recent appointment within SLPP. CBK vows to rebuild the SLPP and regrets putting forward Maithripala to run for office. Multiple factions warn that the new Electricity Act puts Sri Lanka's energy sovereignty at risk. Pro-Palestinian protests at US universities spread across the country.
Your top story for tonight. The Bar Association of Sri Lanka has strongly condemned a recent statement by the country's Public Security Minister Tiran Alas and urged the President to remove Minister Alas from the ministerial portfolio. The minister's remarks made at the Katukurunda STF training camp's passing out parade has garnered widespread attention across various media platforms.
The Bar Association of Sri Lanka has strongly condemned a recent statement by the country's Public Security Minister Tiran Alas. Minister Tiran Alas reportedly told the new officers, quote, "Eliminating criminals from the country is not a sin. Don't be afraid to use the weapon in your hand for the right thing and we stand by you," unquote. The BASL views this statement as a direct violation of Sri Lanka's constitution and established procedures governing the criminal justice system. Issuing a statement, the BASL said the dispensation of justice, including the imposition of penalties upon wrongdoers, is exclusively within the jurisdiction of the courts as mandated by the Constitution. The BASL emphasized that due process, including proper investigations and fair trials, is fundamental to a just legal system. The BASL expressed deep concern over the rise in extrajudicial killings, custodial deaths and torture by law enforcement officials in recent months. They believe Minister Ala's statement exacerbates this worrying trend by suggesting that law enforcement can operate outside the legal framework. The association called the minister's actions irresponsible, arbitrary and misleading, highlighting his duty to uphold public trust and provide proper guidance to law enforcement personnel. In light of these concerns, the BASL has urged President Ranil Wickremesinghe to remove Minister Tiran Alas from the portfolio of public security, as he, by his repeated statements encouraging impunity and callous disregard for the rule of law, demonstrates that he is no longer suitable to hold that office. The BASL reaffirms the sacrosanct principle that the authority to mete out punishment must remain vested solely in the courts, operating within the bounds of established legal procedures. The BASL reiterates the fundamental right of every individual accused of an offence to undergo a fair and diligent investigation and to receive a fair trial as guaranteed by the law and international conventions adhered to by any civilized legal system.
Chancellor of the University of Colombo, Venerable Dr. Muruthettuwe Anandathera, expressed views regarding action taken by the police during a media briefing.
Police were instructed to shoot at the knees if attempts to control them fail. We do not know where they will shoot when doing so. However, this has to end somehow. Some lawyers are protesting against this program. Being a lawyer is a profession. They are protecting the profession, whether it is right or wrong. So they are of the stance that it is wrong to ask police officers to use guns. Guns are used for the police officers' safety. Police enforce the law. If they disregard orders, our lawyers should understand that we should enforce discipline and the law. If someone acts in violation of the law, none of us should object to the manner in which the law is enforced. Regardless of who objects, if there is any obstacle that is in violation of the law, for the police to safeguard peace, the police officers will follow orders from their superiors. If one of us get in the way, we will never be able to build this country. Logic and law are two separate things. You can argue on anything and make society accept it. However, when enforcing the law law as a law-abiding people. People who enforce the law should be encouraged. Do not get in their way. Lawyers look into whether the law is being implemented properly in this manner. These groups shouldn't put an end to that process. As a group that helps to enforce the law, they should support the actions taken by the government against groups that act in violation of the law. We believe there is an invisible force behind this.
The Inspector General of Police informed the Supreme Court that 5 police OICs who were previously transferred due to their failure to prevent the burning of ministers' houses during the period of the Aragalaya have now been assigned suitable police stations in accordance with the agreement reached in court.
The fundamental rights petitions filed by 5 police OICs were revisited before the Supreme Court. The 3-member Supreme Court bench, Chief Justice Jayantha Jayasuriya, Gamini Amarasekara and AHMD Nawaz presided over the proceedings. During the hearing, Additional Solicitor General Viraj Dayaratna, representing the IGP, confirmed that suitable police stations had been allocated to the petitioners as per the prior court agreement. Consequently, the 3 petitioner OICs expressed their consent to assume responsibility for these designated police stations, leading the bench to close the hearing on their petitions. However, the legal representatives of the remaining 2 petitioner police officers conveyed their refusal to accept the police stations proposed by the IGP. Furthermore, the officers informed the court that their positions had been downgraded. As a result, the bench scheduled a subsequent session on the 29th of May to deliberate on the petitions submitted by the 2 petitioning police station OICs. President's Counsel Salia Piris appeared on behalf of the petitioners. Justice Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa appeared before the Court of Appeal today to assert his recent appointment within the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. In a revision application submitted to the Court of Appeal, the minister sought an order to suspend the injunction issued by the Colombo District Court, which had previously restrained him from assuming the role of acting chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
On behalf of the Minister of Justice, President's Counsel Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, President's Counsel Dr. Romesh De Silva appeared in court to file this revision application. The respondents named in this petition include Lasanthala Giyawanna, Duminda Disanayaka and Mahinda Amaravira. During the proceedings before Court of Appeal Judge D.N. Samarakon, the respondents also made an appearance. The Court of Appeal Judge scheduled a hearing for the petition on the 2nd of May to deliberate on the factual aspects of the case.
The patron of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, convened a press conference at the Foundation Institute in Colombo. This marks her inaugural participation in a press conference since the onset of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party crisis. During this session, the former president addressed various allegations directed at her concerning the party's turmoil. Is she contemplating a return to politics from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party?
Today, our political leaders behave as though there was never an Aragalaya, at least from what I can observe. I find it baffling, the state of politics today. It seems the entire nation is bent on pursuing power through unsavory means. Merely holding on to power seems to be sufficient, enjoying the perks that accompany it, regardless of the consequences for the country or its people. I have never engaged in such politics. It's a cycle. First the father, then the daughter, followed by the daughter's spouse, and then the mother-in-law's relative, and so on. Eventually, it becomes their inheritance. Individuals who were once found guilty of thievery by courts now occupy positions as ministers. This state of affairs is untenable. That's why I refuse to align myself with current politicians. When offered the chairmanship of the party, I declined. If there's an opportunity to elevate the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to a certain standard, I am willing to offer assistance, but nothing more.
Sri Lanka නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ යම්කිසි තත්වයකට ගොඩනගන්න පුළුවන් නම් මම උදව් කරනවා එච්චරයි.
The former president addressed allegations on attempts to align the Sri Lanka Freedom Party with the United National Party.
දැන් මේ කියන ලොකුම බොරුව තමයි චන්ද්‍රිකා මේකට.
Now the biggest lie spread by them is that Chandrika has come to help the UNP. I have no intention to do so. If we can build the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, I will help. I still have faith that the SLPP can be built as a strong force. It can be done with the new blood, coupled with the untainted present party membership. However, However, do not try to express concern over my relatives. My son will not enter politics. Ranil Wickremesinghe, on multiple occasions, based on our friendship, offered me a position to help the government in Britain. I declined, noting that I would not as long as those rogues remained. That is my position.
මං කිව්වා ඒ හොරු ටික ඉන්නකන් නම් මට බෑ. මගේ ස්ථාවරය තාමත් ඒකයි.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ අපේක්ෂකයෙක් ජනාධිපති වෙන්නට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා ඔබතුමිය හිතන්නේ නැද්ද?
Then too late.
It is too late now, and that is impossible. The truth is that the Sri Lanka Freedom Party has been completely destroyed. It will take a few more years to build the party, but we will start to build it. If the process were initiated in 2019 instead of following the SLPP, we could have built the party alone. If Sirasa had not acted on the instructions of the Rajapaksas, it would have been possible that the SLPP would be in power.
මේ වෙලාවේ සමහර විට බලයේ ඉන්නේ අපේ පක්ෂේ.
දැන් සීයාගේ දස්පක්ෂයේ මේ මාධ්‍ය සාකච්ඡා තැන් වල තියෙනවා. ඒක කියන චෝදන අනාගත කරනවා. මේ තුලින් පාක්ෂිකයෝ මේ දවසින් දවස ඉරියම්මක් වෙන්නේ නෝනේ.
මේක හොඳ නැහැ. නිල පක්ෂය දැන් තියෙන්නේ අපි හදපු නිවාස.
That is not a wise thing to do. Nimal Siripala is the acting chairman of the party. Dominda Dissanayake was appointed as the general secretary of the party. It is not wise for others to make other comments.
The former president also commented on Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa being named acting chairman of the party.
He too crossed over from party to party. I recruited him to the SLPP and offered him positions. His dreams of becoming president will not be realized by positioning himself within the Sri Lanka Freedom Party.
The former president also commented on previous political events.
When I assumed office, I made a commitment to the people that I would step away from active politics at the age of 60. Unlike some, I refused to cling to power with a wheelchair and a walking stick. True to my word, I retired from politics in 2005 upon reaching 60 years of age. For years thereafter, I remained steadfast in my resolve, resisting any attempts by the Rajapaksas to draw me back into the political arena. Despite their relentless efforts to undermine me after handing over the leadership of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, I held my ground against their onslaught. However, circumstances compelled me to re-enter politics in 2015. I united several parties to form an alliance driven by our shared aspiration for a leadership untainted by corruption and deceit. Yet our ambitions were dashed. It became increasingly evident to me that post-2019, the prospect of clear and honest leadership in our nation was dim.
මට පැහැදිලි වුණා 2019 පස්සේ මේ රටේ කිසිම නායකත්වයක් පැහැදිලි නායකත්වයක් නැහැ කියලා.
2005 ජනාධිපතිවරණයට මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන මහත්තයා ඉදිරිපත් කරපු ගැන ඔබදී දැන් කනගාටු වෙනවා.
ඔව් පැහැදිලිව. ඒක නිසානේ මම එයාව පක්ෂයෙන් අස් කරන්න කියලා උසාවි ගියා.
Yes, that is why I sought relief from the court to remove him from the party. I did so to rectify a monumental mistake that was committed. We did not have a proper alternative at the time. The 40-plus parties that formed the alliance at the time requested that I run for president. Maithripala Sirisena then met me and discussed the matter in length, but I refused. Some even started to present me with my own horoscope, citing that it would assure my victory. After consulting the general secretary of the party, we took him in and never expected that it would lead to this. The headquarters of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party was reopened today for police investigations. The police officers conducted on-site investigations and special security was deployed at the party's headquarters.
Is the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna in a crisis? The General Secretary of the SLPP, Attorney Sagara Karyavasam, responded to these concerns.
Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna නියෝජනය කරන මන්ත්‍රීවරු ඇමතිවරු කී දෙනෙක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ඉන්නවද?
මට ඒක නම් හරියටම ගාන කියන්න බෑ. මට මතක හැටියට 112ක් තමයි හිටියේ.
විජේදාස රාජපක්ෂ ඇමතිතුමා තවදුරටත් ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණේ පක්ෂ සමාජිකයෙක්ද?
ඒක එතුමාගෙන් තමයි දැනගන්න ඕනේ.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ කී දෙනෙක් අරන් ඉන්නද තියෙන්නේ මේ වෙද්දී?
අපි දන්න තරමට නම් කිසිම කෙනෙක් අපිට දැනුවත් කළා නැහැ පක්ෂය හැර ගියා කියලා. අපි අසා සිටින අවස්ථාවලදී තෝන් කිසිම කෙනෙක් අපිට ප්‍රකාශ කරන්නේ නැහැ උන් පක්ෂය හැර ගියා කියලා.
සන්දයාපා බණ්ඩාරක නාලකොඩේවා මන්ත්‍රීතුමා. ජීවීපී මන්ත්‍රීතුමා.
ඒ කිසිම කෙනෙක් අද වෙනකල් ප්‍රකාශය කළා නැහැ උන් ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදුජන පෙරමුණ අතහැර ගිහින් කියලා.
සමගි ජනමාධ්‍යයත් එක්ක සම්දාන කරනවා. මේ පොදුජන පෙරමුණ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැද්ද ඒක?
නෑ අපිට ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැතුව නෙමෙයි. නමුත් මේ සමහර පුද්ගලයින් දෙබිඩි දේශපාලන චරිත රඟපානකොට ඒක මං හිතන්නේ ඉතා පරිස්සමින් ඒ සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරන්න ඕනේ. අවශ්‍ය නීතිමය උපදෙස් අරගෙන නිසි ආකාරයට කටයුතු කිරීම කළ යුතුයි. ඉදිරියේදී විනය මණ්ඩලයේ වාර්තාව අනුව අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු කරන්න අපි අවශ්‍ය පියවර ගන්නවා.
සම්රණතුංග අමාත්‍යවරයාත් යම් ප්‍රකාශයක් කරා මේ පක්ෂ මූලස්ථානයේ ආසන්නයේ ඉඳගෙන ප්‍රේමනාත් සි දොරවත්ත මන්ත්‍රීතුමා ප්‍රකාශයක් කළා තිබ්බා මේ ඇත්තටම දැන් මොකක්ද පක්ෂයට වෙලා තියෙන්නේ?
පක්ෂයට වෙලා තියෙන දේ මයි පළවෙනිදාට ඔබලට අපි බලා ගන්න සලස්වනවා. කවුරු මොනවා කිව්වත් පක්ෂය ඊට ශක්තිමත්.
The SLPP faction that functions as the Freedom People's Congress convened a media briefing today.
Come on the 1st of May, we will be able to rally around the leadership of future President Sajith Premadasa. We invite all others to join us in forming the Samagya Alliance government. Those in the SLPP who betrayed the mandate of 6.9 million people have led to the destruction of the party. We will not cast aside any of those real aspirations. We will continue to struggle for the development by sticking to the principles. The mandate of 6.9 million people has been brought to the level where it is only considered a number. Therefore, we will continue to struggle to realize the aspirations of the 6.9 million voters.
Leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa stated that it rests upon the people to determine whether they will be misled by individuals who exhibit arrogance and are incapable of contributing effectively. The people of the country are currently facing immense challenges. Can the 22 million people be uplifted? Yes, it is possible. However, the path to recovery lies in embracing truth wholeheartedly, free from falsehoods and deceit. It requires a clear-eyed recognition of reality and a commitment to honesty. Theft must cease, and corruption, fraud and the misuse of state resources must be swiftly eradicated from our society and political landscape. A nation cannot flourish under the rule of dishonest individuals. It is incumbent upon every citizen, including our children, to break free from the shackles of servitude and refuse to tolerate dishonesty from our leaders. The vast majority of our population was led astray. It is up to you to decide on whether to repeat it. We bear the burden of a staggering debt, both domestic and foreign. Are we content to remain enslaved by debt? Do we continue to be seduced by false comforts? It is time to make the wise choice.
The motorcycle parade themed Ranilta Idademu continued for the third consecutive day today.
The Ranilta Idademu motorcycle parade began from Munaragala and reached the Ampara town via Siembalanduwa this afternoon. The parade was received in the Ampara town by members of the UNP. Kalmune is the destination of this motorcycle parade for today.
General Secretary of the JVP, Tilvin Silva, says that a national renaissance is needed to build the country, and for that a massive people's movement has been built.
අපිට වංචා දූෂණ පිළිබඳ කිසිම චෝදනාවක් නැහැ. අපි අපේ ඉතිහාසයේ කැපකිරීම කරලා
We have no allegations of fraud or corruption. We are a political movement who have taught how to do politics by making sacrifices in our history. Even all of you know that we work in an orderly manner. When you consider our May Day celebration, you have seen the discipline we have. Therefore, if we want to create order in our country, if we want to establish the rule of law, if we want to create a country free from fraud and corruption, we are the only political movement that can do it. We have to get rid of the debt burden. We need a national renaissance. If there is a strong common goal, no one has the possibility of pushing back such a power. We have built massive people's movements. On this May Day, we are also going to strengthen that people's power. So we will change it together, not as a party, but with the power of the people.
මහා දෙවන්ත ජනතා බලයක් ජනතා ප්‍රවාහයක් ජනතා ව්‍යාපාරයක් හැටියට
The Uttara Lanka Sabagaya convened a media briefing in Colombo.
If the country's sovereignty, energy sovereignty, rights and other related matters are given away ahead of an election, the results of the said election will be of no significance.
ඒ නිසා මුලින් මේ අලියට මේ දිවුල ගිලින්න ඉඩ නොදී ඉන්න ඕන. අලියා දිවුල ගිල්ලට පස්සේ
The process must be allowed to proceed. Even after doing so, if a person continues to go about saying that he is the president, that person is insane. Wickremesinghe, together with the IMF, Western nations and the regional powers, are giving away the country's sovereignty.
කලාපීය බලවතුන් සමග එකතු වෙලා මේ රටේ ස්වෛරීත්වය බිල්ලට දෙමින් දිවුල ගිලිනවා වික්‍රමසිංහ නැමැති අලියා. ඒ නිසා ඔහු හිතනවා ජනාධිපතිවරණයේදී ඒ දිවුල ගිලලා එන හපේ තමයි ජනාධිපතිවරණයෙන් මොකාදින්නත් අතට ලැබෙන්නේ. ඒ නිසා විරුද්ධ පක්ෂ බලවේග මේ දිවුල ගිලින එක ගැන කතා කරන්නේ නැහැ.
Various debates are ongoing between political parties. Amidst this, there are conflicting opinions within certain parties. While Sri Lanka's political stage is getting intense, several other critical issues are also coming to light.
The Sri Lanka electricity bill, which was presented to make several changes to Sri Lanka's power and energy sector, takes centre stage among these issues. Are these laws being changed to hand over Sri Lanka's power supply to India? Today, the Ceylon Electricity Board's Engineers Union provided a detailed explanation on this particular matter.
මේකේ තියෙනවා National Transmission Network Service Provider කියලා ආයතනයක් හැදෙනවා ඉස්සරහට. ඒක තමයි ඉස්සරහට විදුලි වල මණ්ඩලයේ දැන් කරන සම්ප්‍රේෂණ ව්‍යාපෘති 1,30,000.
An organization called the National Transmission Network Service Provider will be formed in the future. It is the organization that will build and maintain the 130,000 and 220,000 transmission lines and grid stations that is done by the CEB at present. It is already a separate institution within the CEB. The ONM and grid transmission lines are still being carried out through projects by the CEB. It will be transferred to this company in the future. This bill states that the company can only operate within the country. This company may be kept as a state-owned institution or may be transformed to a private-public partnership. What we've heard is that 51% will be reserved by the government and 49% will be given to the private sector. Whether it is given to the private sector or not, this company is not responsible for what is done outside this country. Sri Lanka's power grid is due to be connected to India's power grid through a tie line. The related project activities, negotiations, funds and loans are being discussed at present and the necessary background is being created to commence the project. According to the bill, this company cannot connect with India and a private company will have to do it. If a private company does this, the project will be done in a manner that suits them. The agreement due to be signed in the future for the project will include how many units of electricity will be purchased from India, how many will be given to India, the rates at which a unit will be sold and bought, and the amount of megawatts which will be transferred. This bill states that the conditions can only be set with cabinet approval and it does not require to be tabled in parliament. If so, the government in power will be able to attribute it to the influence of geopolitics and set conditions arbitrarily, which may lead to the electricity generated at a lower cost in Sri Lanka to be given to India and electricity to be purchased at a higher rate from India. The cabinet has been given the authority to approve a legal document containing such facts. We believe this should be done through Parliament, which is accountable to the people because it can be debated in Parliament and the details can be fixed. If the bill is passed in this manner, the future of this country's energy sector will be at risk.
මේ කරුණු කාරණා හරියට හදාගැනීමේ හැකියාව තියෙන නැත්නම් මේ පනත මේ විදිහට සම්මත වුණොත් ඇත්තටම රටේ විදුලි අනාගතේ අඳුරු තැනකට තමයි ගමන් කරන්නේ.
National Catholic Mass Communications Director Father Jude Fernando commented on a statement made by State Minister Chamara Sampath Dasanayake recently regarding His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith. These opinions were expressed during a media briefing held today.
පසුගිය දවසේදී පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ පාස්කු ප්‍රහාරය පිළිබඳ විවාදයේදී චාමර සම්පත් දසනායක ඇමතිවරයා කතෝලික සභාව
During the debate on the Easter Sunday attacks held in Parliament recently, Chamara Sampath Dasanayake made scathing remarks on the Catholic Church and the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith. He claimed that His Eminence had requested a service extension from the Pope since His Eminence is now 80 years of age. That is an utter lie. The Catholic tradition is an Archbishop must inform the Vatican when he reaches the age of 75 and notify the Vatican that he must retire. Around 1.5 years ago, His Eminence informed the Pope in writing of reaching 75 years of age. It is the discretion of the Pope to accept it or not. One thing I am certain of is that His Holiness the Pope has informed His Eminence to remain in the position. Moreover, a cardinal can remain in a position until the age of 80 and also attend the College of Cardinals, which selects the next Pope. The State Minister has further claimed the Cardinal has called for the people to vote for the JVP. That is another blatant lie. The Cardinal never stated that votes must be cast in favour of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya or the JVP. But what the Cardinal did mention was that both these factions had assured to investigate the Easter Sunday attacks thoroughly should they come to power. In another instance, the Cardinal requested the people to refrain from voting for those who failed to bring the perpetrators of the attack to justice. That is what His Eminence said.
වින්දිතයින්ට සාධාරණේ ලබා නොදුන්නු අයට ඡන්දය දෙන්නට එපයි කියලා. ඒකට ඒක තමයි උන්වහන්සේ කිව්වේ.
Newsfirst with the people.
The Japanese Foreign Affairs Minister is expected to arrive in Sri Lanka later this week.
Minister of Foreign Affairs of Japan, Yoko Kamikawa, is scheduled to undertake an official visit to Sri Lanka from the 4th to the 5th of May 2024. During this visit, the Japanese Foreign Minister is scheduled to pay courtesy calls on President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. The Japanese Foreign Minister and her delegation will have official discussions with Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister Ali Sabri during the visit. The Foreign Minister will be accompanied by senior officials of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan. The Minister of Education has determined that advanced level classes will commence 2 weeks after the conclusion of the GCE ordinary level examination. The Minister of Education provided further clarification on this matter. Due to COVID-19, only 50% of the 2 years of schooling were conducted in physical classrooms. Consequently, the subsequent scheduling of examinations within the country was significantly delayed. As we work toward restoring normalcy, a proposal has been put forward to address this issue. It is anticipated that this year's O-level examination will commence on the 7th and conclude on the 20th. However, transitioning directly from the O-level exams to A-level classes in the first week of June poses a significant challenge for students. It is worth noting that a substantial portion, approximately 75% of A-level students, have not been attending school. With the expectation that these students will be on study leave by the next term, the concern of overcrowding in schools should be alleviated.
Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister President's Council Ali Sabri, speaking at a forum in Saudi Arabia, called on the global north to walk the talk. He was speaking at the North to South, East to West Rebuilding Trust panel discussion organised by the World Economic Forum.
We would like to work as a sovereign state with everyone. We would like to have multiple choices. I know sometimes it's very difficult. Probably we are being coerced or at least attempts are made for us to take choices which are not very voluntarily. I think no global South country would appreciate that. We would always like to take those choices which is available to us with everyone, you know, with the global South and the global North. So if you ask me about the global South perspective, there is a lack of confidence between two global North and the North. Yes, there is. That comes with a lot of reasons. There is very little walking the talk. You know, we always see a lot of lectures as to how you should govern your country, democratic values, human rights, green energy, climate change, but very little in terms of delivering on it. You know, countries in the global South need the support of the global North on having access to low-cost funding, debt relief, transition of latest technology, the digital divide. So I think this is time for the global North to walk the talk and collaborate with it. So we need a world which promote peace, not confrontation, which collaborate, which compete, but not confront each other. That's the perspective of the global South whenever we talk to our friends in the global South and the countries in the global South.
Sri Lanka's Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan on the sidelines of a special meeting of the World Economic Forum in Riyadh. During the meeting, they discussed bilateral relations and ways to enhance and develop them, as well as strengthen bilateral coordination in many fields. The two sides also exchanged views on regional and international issues. In addition, Foreign Minister Ali Sabri had a productive meeting with Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry on the sidelines of the special meeting of the World Economic Forum currently being held in Riyadh. The duo reviewed the bilateral relationship, decided to enhance economic cooperation and bilateral trade, and enhance the cultural exchanges between the two countries. They also further agreed to work closely towards the two-state solution for the Palestinian crisis. The Sri Lankan Foreign Minister also met with his counterpart of the Republic of Croatia, Gordon Grilic Radman, and Director General of the WHO, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, on the sidelines of the special meeting in Riyadh.
Up next is the Newsfirst financial report.
The Newsfirst finance report.
Sri Lankan 04, wind 220 degrees 17 knots, runway 27 clear to land.
Recently, Sri Lanka's state-owned enterprise restructuring unit announced that 6 requests for qualifications were received for the acquisition of shares of Sri Lankan Airlines. The RFQs were received from the following parties: AirAsia Consulting, SDNBHD, Darshan Elite Investment Holding Private Limited, Fitz Aviation Private Limited, Sirasa Technologies Private Limited, Treasure Republic Guardians Limited, Haley's PLC. Capital A CEO Tan Sri Tony Fernando clarified last week that it will be AirAsia Consulting, not AirAsia, that is bidding for Sri Lankan Airlines. Capital A Berhad's unit, AirAsia Consulting, Sendirian Berhad, is the entity that is bidding to acquire Sri Lankan Airlines, and if it materializes, will raise its own capital for the acquisition.
And yes, they put in a bid to buy Sri Lankan Airways, but nothing to do with AirAsia. That's consulting, and they will raise their own capital to do that if they win. There are two aims of consulting. One is to potentially take stakes in airlines that are outside of the AirAsia group, potentially create franchise airlines in Bangladesh, etc. And also just to provide a consulting service. AirAsia Consulting is bidding for the airline, right?
Just as a consultant?
No, it's bidding to buy the airline. Consulting, not AirAsia.
No, I mean, you're not running the operations if you do get the airline.
They will be running the operations. AirAsia Consulting, not AirAsia.
He also said that AirAsia Consulting will be changing its name to Capital A Consulting very soon. To enhance operational efficiency, the Sri Lanka Ports Authority has started installing ship-to-shore gantry cranes on the 5th phase of the Jaya Container Terminal. These cranes were temporarily installed and used for operations at the East Container Terminal from 2020 until the completion of Phase 5 works at the JCT. Commenting on the project, J. Chandraratna, Additional Managing Director Technical of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, highlighted the positive impact on the Jaya Container Terminal's operational berthing and container handling capabilities. He emphasized that the integration of these advanced cranes into the terminal's infrastructure will contribute to a significant boost in productivity, further solidifying its position as a key maritime hub in the region. The Sri Lankan rupee experienced further strengthening against the US dollar. As per the exchange rate data released by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka today, the selling price for $1 American stands at 300 rupees and 95 cents, while the purchase price is 291 rupees and 52 cents.
The Newsfirst finance report.
Drugs worth 6 billion Indian rupees on the way to Sri Lanka were seized by the Indian Coast Guard.
The Indian Coast Guard seized 86 kilograms of suspected heroin worth 6 billion Indian rupees from a Pakistani boat which was on its way to Sri Lanka via Tamil Nadu off the Porbandar coast in Gujarat and arrested 14 crew members. The drugs were seized during a joint ICG operation with the Anti-Terrorist Squad and the Narcotics Control Bureau, during which the Indian side opened fire, injuring one of the crew members. According to an official release, ATS Superintendent of Police KK Patel received information that Haji Aslam alias Babu Balok, A drug operative from Pakistan would be sending a boat named Al Raza from the Karachi harbour to deliver narcotic substances like heroin and methamphetamine in the intervening night of April 25th and 26th near the international maritime boundary line of Porbandar. The said contraband was to be delivered to a dhow from Tamil Nadu to be further delivered to Sri Lanka-based drug operatives. Later, the joint team of Gujarat ATS and ICG identified a suspicious vessel in the Indian waters 180 nautical miles off Porbandar. The Indian Coast Guard and Gujarat ATS team that had tried to board the vessel for checking was obstructed by the crew of the suspected boat, and to restrain the crew and to stop the fleeing vessel, firepower was used in which one member of the crew of the vessel sustained bullet injuries. All the 14 accused are residents of Lasbela in Pakistan's Balochistan. The master of the boat, 62-year-old Nazir Hussain Azam Khan, who suffered the bullet injury, was evacuated for further medical care. Meanwhile, the boat and its crew members are being brought to Porbandar for further probe. This is the second operation this week after the NCB and ATS seized mephedrone and other chemical drugs worth 3 billion Indian rupees from laboratories in Rajasthan and Gujarat.
Today is day 3 of the third phase of the LOLC DAVIA program, which is being carried out for the betterment of Sri Lanka's future generation. Under the DAVIA program, exercise books and stationery required for a year are distributed free of charge to government schools with less than 150 students. Today's program was centered around the Dehiyovita education zone in the Kegol district. Accordingly, school bags and stationery were donated to the students of the V. Oya Primary School, Amanavala Gamini School, Seepot Senanayaka School, Polpitiya Primary School, Halgolla Tamil School, Kirikohutanna Junior School and the Mahabage Junior School. The LOLC DAVIA program continues to forge ahead for the future generations of Sri Lanka.
US President Joe Biden was critical of former President Donald Trump at his own age and, and poked fun at his own age at the annual White House Correspondence dinner.
Biden opened his roast with a direct but joking focus on Trump, calling him quote-unquote Sleepy Don in reference to a nickname Trump had given the president previously.
If you think your Irish grandparents are wondering, my great-great-grandparents that came here in 1846 and went, what in the hell's going on? I want to thank you for the warm welcome. But please, not so loud. Donald was listening. Sleepy Don. I kind of like that. I may use that again. Kelly O'Donnell, President of the White House Correspondence Association, thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
But Kelly O, let's be honest. You're way too young to be president. It's been a year since I delivered this speech, and my wife Jill, who's with me tonight, was worried how I do. I told her, don't worry, just like riding a bike. She said, that's what I'm worried about. Of course, the 2024 election's in full swing. And yes, age is an issue. I'm a grown man running against a 6-year-old.
In more news from the United States, hundreds of students have been arrested across universities in the United States, with scuffles reported between pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian demonstrators as rallies for a ceasefire in Gaza and divestment from companies linked to Israel spread across US campuses.
The pro-Palestinian encampment at the University of California at Los Angeles has expanded in recent days, but counter-protesters have also become increasingly vocal and visible. On Sunday, the mood turned ugly when some demonstrators broke through a barrier that had been set up to separate the two factions.
right there. You got rights, I got rights too.
Don't stand in his way. Just let him go. Just get out of his way.
You're pushing. You're blocking me. You're touching my hand.
Why are you not letting them photograph? Okay, that's fine. You're right. Photograph.
People from both sides then pushed and shoved each other, shouting slogans and insults, and in some cases trading punches. Campus police armed with batons eventually separated the sparring groups. While the Los Angeles police were not called in at UCLA and no arrests were made, officers in other parts of the country were deployed to campuses, with some using chemical irritants and tasers to disperse the students as the protests spread. In Boston, police detained about 100 people while clearing a protest camp at Northeastern University, with social media posts showing security forces in riot gear and officers loading tents onto the back of a truck.
Free Palestine!
The Indiana Daily Student newspaper reported in Bloomington in the Midwest, the Indiana University Police Department arrested 23 people as they cleared a campus protest camp.
In the name of the state of Arizona, I declare this gathering to be a violation of ARS 13-1502A1.
On the opposite side of the country, the Arizona State University Police Department arrested 69 people for trespassing after the group set up an unauthorized encampment on campus. Arizona state officials said a protest group, most of whom were not ASU students, faculty or staff, set up a camp on Friday and ignored repeated orders to disperse.
Palestine will be free!
Meanwhile, at Washington University in St. Louis, at least 80 people were arrested, including U.S. presidential candidate Jill Stein and her campaign manager.
This is about freedom of speech, and not just any old freedom of speech, but freedom of speech on a very critical issue that needs debate and dialogue. And there they are, sending in the riot police and basically creating a riot.
Wash you, you can't hide, you're supporting genocide.
Across the U.S., university leaders have tried and largely failed to quell the demonstrations, which have often seen the police intervening violently, with videos emerging from different states showing hundreds of students and even faculty members being forcefully arrested. The protesters have demanded amnesty for students and faculty members disciplined or fired for protesting. About a week ago at Columbia University in New York, more than 100 pro-Palestinian activists were arrested. What started at the Columbia campus has turned into a nationwide showdown between students and administrators over pro-Palestine protests and the restrictions on free speech.
Someone just got arrested. Things have definitely got a lot more tense.
In the past 10 days, hundreds of students have been arrested, suspended, put on probation, and in rare cases expelled from colleges, including Yale University, the University of Southern California, Vanderbilt University, and the University of Minnesota. A few universities have had to cancel graduation ceremonies, while others have seen their buildings occupied by the protesters.
And with that, it's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.